commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. Hope you all had a great weekend. Sizzling hot still here in the ATL. I'll tell you, I was playing lacrosse last night. It was about 100 degrees, not a breath of fresh air. End of season, last game. Of course, we won. Got the tournament coming up next weekend, so I'm starting my week off on a positive note. Went down to the final seconds. We pulled it out 5-4. So nice, fun game. A little jarring, a little chippiness at the end, but that's the competitive spirit. And also, guys, we think our MLL days are back, but you know what? I got to get up and go to work on Monday. So. You just got to go. After it's all over, we go in the parking lot and they drink some beers. We have fun. We laugh. And so anyway, hope everybody had a great weekend. You're staying cool. Remember, wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Thanks for chiming in once again. Got a great episode tonight. I met this young lady back last year at my CCRP event in October. And she actually was a lead-up event. And we kind of had some synergies and so forth, and actually was one of my sponsors at my summit back in Jacksonville in the beginning of the year. And she brought these really cool coffee mugs that had these leather coatings, and they went like hotcakes. I don't know. Anyway, her name is Miss Careyann Golliver. She's the founder of Franchise Logic, and she's in one of my favorite towns because I went to the University of Denver, DU Pioneer. She's in Denver, Colorado, in the Mile High City. Say hello to our commercial construction coffee talk fans out there, Careyann.
Hello, all you fans out there.
So anyway, Careyan's got a great story because she was actually a brand and, dealing with locations and construction and facilities. And then they sold that business. Now she's actually helps people, get into franchising and offers, different ways that you can think about as you get older and you've been with your company. Maybe you want to make a change of pace. And I thought that with everything that's going on today, with especially in our sector, a lot of people being furloughed and laid off, that this would be a great conversation for you, a positive conversation. Let's forget about politics, forget about all the doom and gloom about COVID. I hate that freaking bug. Okay, we're going to talk about some positive stuff here that you can there's other things that you can do out there versus looking for another job, because many of you out there have, a 401k, and this young lady can actually direct you into maybe finding something else you never even thought about. So, Careyann, as always, we ask you where you grew up, where you went to school, how you actually got into to the retail franchise kind of things that you guys had built with your family, and
Yeah.
how you got into this. And the floor is you. So let's welcome Miss Careyann Golliver for Franchise Logic. Let's hear your story.
Thank you, David. Well, my story is unique. I was actually born in Salida. So Salida, Colorado, and it's a really teeny tiny mountain town. So I am a native of Colorado. I think it's just my piece of paradise. I cannot imagine that I could live anywhere else. So the mountains are always calling me. I love to mountain bike. I love to hunt. I love to fish. So I love to do, but I'm also a girly girl. So I like my shopping and all that stuff as well. But, just a mountain homegrown woman, and love to live a very active physical life. My parents actually built their first home together in Salida. I think their mortgage was something like $19,000.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Now you're talking.
Yeah, crazy times. And so, both my parents actually were teachers. My mother was an English professor at Adams State College for many, many, many years when we lived in Alamosa. So I born in Salida, lived in Leadville, lived in Alamosa in the San Luis Valley.
The Leadville Palm Trees. That was the hockey team there.
Really?
Yeah, really. No, listen, I mean, I grew up in Colorado. When I grew up, I born and raised in the East Coast, but I was from New York. But during the winter, my parents used to take me out of school for a month, and I would go ski. I learned how to ski
Okay.
on snowmats, buttermilk.
Yes.
So anyway, for a month, we get tutored and we ski. So
Nice.
anyway, they liked it so much. We always had we've had our house in Vail for 30 years. So I saw everything get built. Skied every mountain in Colorado and done the ride and the Grand Junction and
Yeah.
Glenwood Springs and plus I went to University of Denver, so I'm a Pio at heart. So
Yeah.
hockey, lacrosse. So
Yeah.
so I'm what you're telling me, I'm laughing when I'm hearing this. Salina, Alamosa. I'm like, oh my God, I've been all those places.
Yeah, all those wonderful places.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are wonderful. Now, when we lived in Leadville, it still snow pretty much covered the ground
Oh yeah.
year round, right? So when we moved to Alamosa, it was really the first time my sister and I had ever seen grass. And we were just like, what is this? This is so amazing. We're doing somersaults and rolling around in the grass because, when we lived in Leadville, we lived literally at the top of this street that went, sloped all the way down. Our backyard was literally, the forest, right?
Yeah.
And we would catch squirrels and all kinds of weird animals. And when we were bored, we would literally build snow tunnels from the top of our backyard all the way down, and all the kids played in the snow tunnels all day long because that's all you could do when you lived in Leadville back then.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, and my father was a biology teacher, and they both also taught at Salida High School for many years. And so, I would say the entrepreneurial spirit maybe came from my father. He was kind of, he would buy those sales tapes and try to learn how to sell stuff, and he would do some weird stuff. He ended up buying a pheasant farm with his hunting buddies, and he loved to cook, so he'd cook for all the hunters. And I think that's where I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug, if you will. But for me, school, I was always bored at school. I didn't like school. My father worked for a public service company. We got transferred 1 year before my sister was a senior I remember him sitting us down at the kitchen table, and he had a map out, and he said, okay, girls, we can either go here or here. And it was either Pueblo or Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I wanted to go to Wyoming because I thought, oh, how cool, I can ride horses to school.
Yeah, Cheyenne.
And so we ended up moving to Cheyenne. And he really kind of has a special place in my heart, not just because he's my dad, but just because he was really always hard on me. And so I went to, I did some vocational schools, but honestly, I didn't last more than a couple months because honestly, David, I would just be sitting in the classroom and I'm thinking, I'm so much smarter than these professors. Like, this is boring. This is a waste of my parents' money. I'm out of here, right? Then actually, believe it or not, I decided to go take court reporting classes. So yeah, because I was like fascinated with the machine and the type. I was always a really fast typist. So I took all these classes, and believe it or not, during that time, do you remember the Jeffrey Dahmer case?
Oh, yeah, sure.
That was like, the teachers would put that on the court TV show on, and that would be our practice during classes, is to do the Jeffrey Dahmer case. It was just totally crazy. So, but that, kind of didn't float my boat either. I mean, so then I just really kind of was just really stumbling around trying to find my place. Where I really thrived and loved to be at was with startup companies. I just really flourished with being able to create something and nurture it and take it to the market. So I have a sales and marketing background. I think I'm a natural salesperson. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's just kind of in my DNA. So the problem with being with startups, though, David, is that there's always some Yahoo that screws something up, and then the doors are closed, right? So there's no real stability with startups because they're starting up and they're trying to figure stuff out. I worked for a streaming company for many years here in Centennial, and actually the NHL was my customer. And so I learned all the encoding of how you stream the highlights of the hockey games onto their website. I actually got to go to the All-Star game when the Colorado Avalanche made it
Oh, nice.
at the Pepsi Center. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But again, I was just like, well, I don't know this. I'm a people person. Then I started working for a a black box tracking company. So they were trying to compete with, or was it Orion, or
LoJack?
the big GPS tracking for the trucking companies.
Okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So it was some Japanese company, and we had a black box, but David, it didn't work very well. But my job was to go out there and tell the truckers, hey, we've got a better solution for you, and we're going to be cheaper. So we had no website, we had no product, and I put on my jeans and my cowboy boot, and I went out and drove around to all the trucking companies and made a lot of friends and signed a lot of people up, and then unfortunately the company went belly up. So this just was a pattern. I really tried so hard to get somewhere, and every time it was just a crash and burn. So long story short, having dinner with friends and family, drinking some wine, eating some good food, having the conversation, what do I want to do when I grow up, right? I mean, how many people have that conversation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we ended up coming up with an idea of starting a swamp cooling repair and maintenance company. So for those of you that don't know what a swamp cooler, David, you know what a swamp cooler is. Mm-hmm. Yes, poor man's air conditioning unit. Right. Mm-hmm. So my brother-in-law is very anal with details. So we had my sister actually make him a uniform with an embroidered patch that said Swamp Boy. Swamp Boy.
Swamp Boy, nice.
And we put an ad in the paper, and it said, call Swamp Boy for your repairs and maintenance for your swamp coolers. And the following Monday, and the phone started ringing. And we were like, what the heck? This is crazy. So I was scheduling my brother-in-law out, and he was going to all these appointments. He's a very charismatic personality anyways, but he would come back to the basement. We were operating this business literally in the basement of their house. And he'd say, no, I don't know what's going on. Nobody seems to have a handyman because they want me to stay, and they want me to work on their carpenter.
All this other stuff. Yeah,
drywall, plumbing, all this other stuff. And this just kept happening and happening and happening. So back in the late 90s, obviously there was no such thing as a no-call list. We literally pulled out the phone book and we started calling like 320 people randomly. Hey, do you have a handyman? Would you like to have a handyman? What kind of things would you have that handyman company do for you? And the rest is history. So we built a multi-million-dollar business. Then we learned about franchising, and we said, hey, we're going to franchise our business. We're going to take our business that we created from scratch from the basement, and we're going to help other people escape corporate America, become their own boss, employ people in their own community, and sold, hundreds of franchises. Actually even had a couple that found us on the internet from Ireland. And they were like,
they got to fix things over there too.
Oh, I know, but they were like, hey, we take the summer off. We're going to come visit you. We were like, okay. They stayed for 2 weeks, David. They nearly drunk us under the table. It was like painful, right? And we were like, well, you're all the way in Ireland, so we think you need X more dollars, so we can support you properly. 6 months later, he calls me up and he's like, we're ready to go. We have the extra money. They bought the rights to the UK, ran a fabulous business, had, I think, 3 kids while they owned our franchise. it was just like this magical ride, right?
Hmm.
But I was in business with family, and that's where the magic stops, right?
Right. No, I totally get it. I gave up all the family businesses. I worked in all of them, so I totally get. I
You
understand.
get it, right? Like the lines become very blurred. You're sitting there at Thanksgiving dinner, you're talking about business while you're passing the potatoes. And so I really craved something that was mine. Oh, and by the way, rewind the tape a little bit. So our franchise, that was the top handyman franchise in the industry
You sold it.
that we grew, we were acquired by Ace Hardware last September.
Yeah. Hmm.
Ace was the world's largest retail co-op, right?
Right.
So that was a big feather in the cap. And so now there's Ace Home Services that people are buying every day, right? So it's a fantastic franchise. So what I realized through that journey is, okay, I want something that's mine, and I understand how franchising works. Supported franchisees that bought our franchise understand how all of that works. There's a lot of people out there that want to fire their boss, or they end up in a career transition because of a pandemic, or because their boss decided their position was no longer needed, right? No explanation. But they just don't know where to go, right? They just start feverishly redoing their resume and trying to find a new job. Well, I say, listen, stop renting your time and your talent to build wealth for somebody else who has zero loyalty for you,
Hmm.
who will and can get rid of you in a heartbeat, right?
Hmm.
So I'm very passionate about working with the willing and showing them abundant possibilities of different avenues outside of traditional corporate America.
So so the franchise that you built, you sold it, you created the franchise logic, which
Yeah,
basically, I'm going for what I know, when I met you, and
yeah,
had in January at the summit, that
yeah,
you can actually sit down with people, and franchising it's kind of like a matchmaker thing. You have to find the right franchise for that person to succeed, because they might not be a handyman person, but they might be a computer person, or that might be,
yeah,
you never know what is going to work, but you have to believe in yourself, and you have to, working for yourself is the best. I work for myself. So I took, when I remember when I quit Nielsen, I went on my own. Everybody was like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I'm like, no, if I don't do it, I'll hate myself. And 9 out of 10 businesses don't make it, but here I am standing, 20 years later.
yeah,
Uh, and it's been a roller coaster,
yeah,
but I gave up the steel business. I gave up the furniture business. I gave up the jewelry business. And these all my family businesses. My cousins and a bunch of them, they're still doing it. Myself, no, I've done my own thing. And
yeah,
so, talk about how people can get into a franchise, like what you teach them. You're kind of
yeah.
like a consultant. You'll meet someone, and just like we did in Jacksonville, we
Mm-hmm.
set you up with an appointment, 15-minute meeting,
Yep.
and tell them what you would kind of in like a little nutshell.
Yeah. Well, it's basically doing a self-discovery session, looking inward and really determining, what are your strengths and what are your skill sets? What are the things that you really love to do and you do well? Because those strengths and skill sets that you've gained from your corporate life are still with you, and they can go and be taken across a very broad scope of different industries. Because let's face it, logistically, I mean, fundamentally, rather, every business pretty much operates the same way,
Yeah, you got
right?
costs and you got revenue. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, taking your skill sets and applying it to the right franchise is where the magic happens. And so, what I do is I work with people and help them do this self discovery of really understanding what are the characteristics that are going to be most important to them in a business. that would justify them doing some due diligence, because this is an investment, folks. This is, this is like next to buying a home or a car. It's major. And so you want to make sure that you're laser focused. And so, what does that ideal business look like? Because nobody has time to waste, right? So you don't want to just look at anything under the sun. People come to me all the time and say, oh, I love coffee. Help me buy a coffee shop. No way. Keep your passions and your hobbies on the sidelines. Think of the franchise as an investment vehicle, right? That's going to get you from A to B. Just like real estate, just like stocks and bonds. But with this investment, you're going to have much greater control of the investment, and you're going to have much greater ROI often, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we look at, what's going to be most important to you. There's three main categories in franchising. We've got simple retail, right? This is where we're going to find food and beverage, massage, fitness, children's enrichment classes. We've got sophisticated retail. This is where we're going to find shared space, like you mentioned, WeWork. This is where we're going to find auto body repair shops. They're going to be sophisticated, meaning they're going to be more than 4,000 square feet of space. It could be a 4-story building, right? Where you're basically the landlord and you're subleasing spaces out to maybe other entrepreneurs, right? And you're collecting rent every Monday morning, right? So we've got simple retail, sophisticated retail, and then we have non-facility based. Those are anything, think of as a homeowner, all the things that you could have done in your house, around your house, on top of your house. So we got roofing, we have handyman services, we have lawn care services, we have flooring companies, painting companies, right? So we take into consideration if someone is laid off or in a career transition and they need to make money fast, like yesterday, they can't look at retail. Why? Because location. Right? Location is the biggest marketing piece to your business. And site selection, lease negotiation, the architects coming in and doing the build out, that is a journey in itself, right? With the franchise, we can shorten up the timeline because everything is processed and the architects already know what the walls and everything, but it still takes time. And for whatever reason, landlords are never in a hurry to get a lease signed. I don't know what that is, but now pre-COVID, we would say with the simple retail, you're not going to have grand opening for 9 to 12 months. Okay. And sophisticated, it could be 2 years. If you're buying a full-blown restaurant, it may be 2 years before you have a grand opening. So if this person is sitting there going, I need to make money yesterday, that is not going to work. So then we need to look at non-facility based franchises. So you partner with the franchisor who is the expert in that industry. You take your strengths and your skill sets from your corporate gig, apply those to operating the franchise, and that's where the magic happens.
Talk about the how you can work your 401k with the franchise.
Yeah. So there's a big myth out there. People think, oh, franchising is only for the rich, right? No, that's not the case. Yes, you are going to have liquidity, and you're going to have a net worth that's going to justify you being able to afford to buy that franchise. But I have franchises that range from all in under 100K to $3.5 million. So if someone comes to me and they have a net worth of $350,000, we are not going to look at anything that costs more than $350 because that's stupid, right? So we have to be anchored by reality. But, you can borrow, it's called the ROBS program, Rollover for Business Startup. You can borrow your 401k or your IRA dollars to yourself, tax-free and penalty-free, to start a business that you own. So you can also pay yourself a salary with those dollars. And so a lot of people say, okay, this is what my money's doing in the stock market. And if I take a portion of that and apply it to hiring myself and buying an investment that's going to quadruple what I'm getting today over time, it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Tax-free, penalty-free, right? Now, you can't use that money to go shopping. You can't go on a vacation. You can't, buy a hockey team with that money. You have to buy a business, you have to buy an actual business that you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
operating. So there's a lot of people sitting there unemployed with a 401k from their previous employer that they should be looking at saying, how can I make this work for me? How can I utilize these funds that are mine to build a business that serves me instead of me serving somebody else's business?
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, and listen, if just like the election coming up, if one person wins, taxes are going up, the market could go down, and your 401k might not be worth that.
Yeah.
On the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the
Maybe a 201k,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So that's why I thought when we talked about you coming to the summit, like
Yeah.
most of the attendees, they work for corporate, they had their 401ks. Some of these people have been building stores for 20, 25, 30 years. And, eventually you got to get bored doing it, but you have this capital. Here's an opportunity if you decide to retire or they lay off or furlough or
Yeah.
whatever they want, or the company gets bought out and there you go, you're out there. Here's an opportunity that you can actually, the money that you've accumulated, you can take it and find something else to do and be your own boss and grow something that you'll be proud of, and maybe even go down and do the same thing that your family did, build it up and then sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can sell for, you're building an asset that's yours. You're the boss. You're creating important tax shelters, and it's got a built-in exit strategy. So you can create it as a legacy business for family members. You can sell it for a nice multiple at the end. I mean, at the end of the day, you can, I work with a lot of people that are still lucky enough to have a job and they love their job, but they're not being fulfilled. And they want to build a business and keep their paycheck. And you can do that with a franchise. You can keep your paycheck and build a plan B, diversification on the side through a manager. And in many cases, what people find is, oh my gosh, my franchise is giving me this back. I'm still working for this jackwagon at this dollars.
Mhm.
I'm gonna eventually transition, and I'm gonna fire my boss in X number of months because I'm gonna be self-sustaining now, right? And then they can scale and grow. So you can have your cake and eat it too. You don't have to give up a paycheck if you're lucky enough to have one. But if you found yourself saying, what next? Because you're in a position that you were negatively affected by something, franchising is an amazing opportunity to consider.
Oh, listen, we have a ton of them on our circulation. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
got the franchise book when I'm looking for attendees for my events, and I see everything from dog catchers to dog groomers to
There's
pet
thousands.
control. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just
But
have
they're
to
not all created equal. They're
yeah.
not all created equal.
And you can't judge the book by a cover. You might just think, oh man, I would never want one of those. I always told my son, he hated school, just like you, hated it. He wanted to work with his hands. First, he wanted to work on being an auto mechanic. I said, look, if you work for a dealer, you need your own shop. You're going to work for the dealer, you're not going to make any money. Then he wanted to go to motorcycles. I said, look, if you do motorcycles, you're going to have to work in a warm state where they ride bikes all year, okay? And once again, you're going to have your own shop. Then he found out about the airline mechanic thing. So he's graduating now to get his A&P license in a couple of months. But right now, the airline industry is not even flying, so we have no idea, if he's going to. But he has all this experience. But the thing is that you have to, he hated school. Wasn't a philosophy. He wanted to work with his hands, and that's what his passion was. And now he's been flipping bikes and doing these things. And he's like, hey, would you help me do it? I said, look, if that's your passion, look, you can go to school. You can go work for Delta or one of these guys once they get flying. Still keep that. And we can do your little shop. And eventually you can go do your own thing. Maybe
Right.
you can even franchise your thing.
Yeah.
That's why I thought you coming to the summit was a really strategic thing, because you have a niche, you were a brand owner, you went through the whole gig, and you can teach people that a lot of them are out there right now. If a lot of you guys are out there watching this right now, if you wanted to get in touch with Careyann, Careyann, how would someone get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, they can call me. My number is 303-805-5078. The easiest way to really just get some time on my calendar is to go to my website, which is franchise-logic.com.
I seriously think I get enough resumes every day with people that I just had a guy who was, look, I was laid off. I go to the beach every day. I drink some sangria, and now I got to start looking for another job. I know that person, if you're watching, you know who you are. That person has a 401k, and he would be a perfect client for you to go sit down and have a discussion with Careyann and see if she can kind of guide you and say, hey, this is something and it doesn't matter how old you are.
Oh, no. I mean, age doesn't come into factor. And it's, we're going to have you look at multiple different businesses for compare and contrast. The other thing that I do, David, is not only do I match them up with potential amazing fits to narrow that list down, because literally there are over 4,000 different franchises and they're not all created equal. There's some amazing opportunities out there, but there's also a lot of crap. And so you have to be really, really careful. But then I also have over 20 years of franchising experience. So I'm going to coach and guide them every step of the way and help them understand how to conduct a proper due diligence so that they are prospective educated buyer. And there's no guarantees, but the ideal scenario is we're going to find some pretty amazing opportunities they would have never even thought of, that they're going to fall in love with, that they can afford, that they can now create their next chapter. And I should also note that my services are at no cost to them.
There you go. That's
free.
It's a consultant thing. I mean, your gig is, hey, I just helped another person become their own business person, and all you coffee talk people out there, working for yourself is the best. You're going to have great days. You know what? It's the best.
It is.
Remember, you're the captain of the ship. When the ship goes down, you go down with it, But most likely, if you're smart, the ship's going to stay above water and then some. And the ship just gets bigger and bigger. That's the biggest thing. Or you buy more ships.
Yeah.
So this has been a great conversation. With us, everybody coming out of the pandemic, the spikes, I don't want to talk about it. If you wanted to leave our listeners out there with one thought or word, what would it be?
I would say my thought is abundant possibilities.
Awesome. I like it. My word, I'm bullish. Come on, I'm positive. You gotta put your blinders on, go, and don't buy in all the, stay away from the news and the media. It's doom and gloom. Just get yourself psyched, stay positive, one day at a time. Sun's gonna rise the next day. Might be raining up, but you know what? You still got the following day, and it's hard work pays off. I still think that hey, you're gonna make mistakes, learn from them, apply them so you can win. Just like I'm a sports guy. You learn from losing games. Builds character. You learn how to lose. You learn how to win. Winning, I don't care if it's ugly. It's still a W. So, it's always nice to win pretty. But,
who doesn't want to win? Who doesn't want a W?
Yeah, I just want the W on the board. I don't care if it's 15-0 or 5-4. It's still a W, Yeah. So this has been great. So I urge you, if you're out there and you're sitting about, you're in your job and you're thinking about making a change, or you want to keep your job and have something on the side, give Careyann a call out in Colorado. Have a conversation. You'll be thoroughly amazed at what the opportunities are, and let your money work for yourself versus let it having it in the market and not having any really control over it. This is an opportunity for you to use your money to help yourself. In a positive, constructive way. And what the most important thing is, God, you can build something and be so proud of it. You built that, just like you did it in your basement, boom. And then, someone's going to come on and say, hey man, I want that. So very exciting.
Amazing. Yeah. It's
very
amazing.
exciting,
Yeah.
So, well, Miss Golliver, it's been a pleasure having you as our guest. Thank you so much, because I know you're so busy. And I'm glad that you were on our episode. If you want to find me, I'm David C. at ccr-mag.com. If you're not a subscriber, go on my website at ccr-mag.com. Up on the toolbar, there's a subscribe button. Become a subscriber. Make yourself official. If you have any cool projects out there you're doing, or any kind of editorial content, we look at it all. We'd love to post stuff for you, or hopefully get in the magazine. You never know what's going to end up in print, so send us stuff. We look at everything. With that said, stay cool out in Colorado, in the Mile High City for the rest of the summer. Fall's the best time as far as I'm concerned there, or early spring. It could be 80 degrees and snow the next. I think when I saw you in October, it was the earliest it snowed in I don't know how many years. And the next day was 80 degrees.
Yep.
That's what I love about it. Talk about weather. It's the best in Denver. So
yep. Going camping next week.
Yeah, there you go. And for all you commercial construction coffee talk people, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Remember, wash your hands, don't touch your face, keep your distance, and we're going to make it out. I think the third quarter is going to be awesome. The year's going to be great. Get this stupid election over with so we know where the heck we're going, and stay positive. So with that, say goodnight from Colorado, Careyann.
Good night, everybody.
Good night to all you out there, and we'll see you next time on our next episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Signing off from Atlanta, Georgia, and we're signing off from Colorado too. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Careyann. You're the best. All right.
See ya.